Hi, welcome to episode 7 of Greater the Diaspora. I'm your host, Nakira G, and this episode is going to be a special episode. It's going to be kind of short, but today I'm just going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Ghana. And I'm just going to go over just a couple of questions that people have asked me over the years and things that might be relevant today. I just released a video about Occupy Jalorby House, which is a protest movement that's happening right now in Ghana. And so this is like a follow-up video to that video, just to give a little bit more context about what's going on in Ghana and things that you may not know. Okay, so let's get started. Also, I am in LA right now, so I'm not in Ghana. The next few videos, I might be in Ghana or I might be somewhere else. But yeah, so my background right now is Los Angeles. It's where I'm originally from. So I just came back home to kind of like hang out for a little bit and get the rest of my stuff and get my things back to Ghana. And so I just thought, why not do a pros and cons video, because I've never done it. I've been going back and forth to Ghana for the past 10 years. I started out as a study abroad student at the University of Ghana, Legon. I went there for 12 months, 2 semesters, and I did my bachelor's degree there of Africana Studies. And so over the past 10 years, I've never really done a video about traveling through Ghana and things like that. I wanted that experience to be kind of personal. It'd be something that was just for me. And so I think, now this will kind of be the start of me talking a little bit more of my travel journey in Ghana. So like I said, it's been 10 years. I have moved back to Ghana now for about 1.5 years. It'll be 2 years in April. And so I'm going to just kind of go over a couple of things that you guys should know. I'm outside, so it's going to be a little windy. I'm just going to go over a couple of things that you guys should know about Ghana, whether you're visiting or living, or you are interested in coming for long periods of time. Whenever I travel to Ghana, I always stayed up to a year or a month or 3 months. So if you are coming to Ghana and you're thinking about what is it like to stay for over 30 days or over 2 weeks, hopefully this video can answer your questions. If you have any personal questions, feel free to email me. My email will be in the description box below, or send me a DM on Instagram. All right, so let's get started. I want to talk about the concept of residency, housing, and that whole thing. There's a very big misconception that there's a such thing as free land in Ghana. So the word free is not used in like an American context. The word free is more so used meaning open to the public, meaning, permissible. So there is land that is open to be purchased by people in the diaspora as well as people outside of the diaspora. You don't necessarily have to be African. However, African Americans, we do have the right to abode in Ghana. That was something that was implemented by W.E.B. Du Bois in the early 60s or 90s, I believe. And so we do have the right to abode, but the right to abode does come with speculations. Being an immigrant in a country does come with different speculations. And so I just want to kind of get that clear first. A lot of people think that if you're an African American, that means that you can automatically get citizenship. That does not mean you can automatically get citizenship. You cannot automatically get citizenship. So, like I said, the only people that I know that got residency and citizenship are people who have been living there for some time. I don't really know anybody that got citizenship through their DNA or ancestry test, but there are some countries that are offering that. I think like Gabon and maybe Sierra Leone, they might be 2 of the countries that are listed that have that offer. But when it comes to Ghana, I don't think that that's the case. Also, Ghana, as well as other African countries, if you are a U.S. passport holder, UK passport holder, you do need a visa. You do have to send your passport to a U.S. embassy in your country to get a visa stamp. There are ways for you to get a visa on arrival when you get to Ghana. I personally do not do that, so I can't give advice on how to do that. I send my passport in. Sometimes if you go frequently, you can get extensions without even having to ask. Sometimes you can get up to 5 years of a visa for a country. And so when you get up to that many years or that many months, that means that you can go in and out of the country freely, but you also will need a residency permit if you plan to stay longer than 60 or 90 days. So just make sure that you have that in mind if you are coming to Ghana and you want to be there for 2 months or 3 months. 2 months you'll be fine because your visa is valid for 60 days. But if you're staying for like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, then you will have to get a residency permit, or you will have to pay the equivalent of like $10 for each month that you stayed over. So if you stay over 3 months, it'll be the equivalent to about $35 that you'll have to pay when you get to the airport. All right, so let's talk about flight prices. A lot of people think that traveling to Africa is really expensive, which it is, depending on where you're coming from and depending on how you want to get there. If you are looking for direct flights, it is going to be a lot more expensive. If you're coming from the US, I do recommend flying into New York and then flying to Ghana from New York so that you can get a direct flight. If you are flying, or DC, I believe that DC and New York are the Delta routes. Ethiopian Airlines just recently added a route. I took Ethiopian Airlines during this trip, and I was able to fly into New York from Ethiopian Airlines with a layover in Cote d'Ivoire. So if you want to shorten your trip, try to get a direct flight. But I will say this. There are some tricks that you can do to maximize your flight. So sometimes when I am traveling back home or when I'm traveling to Ghana, I will pay a little bit more attention to the layover options that I have, because sometimes you might get a layover in a very interesting country that you might want to visit, and the visa might not be expensive to be in that country. You might want to take advantage of it if you have like a 12-hour or 14-hour or even a 23-hour layover. You might be happy about that because then you can go see another country without the extra hotel room or the extra travel. I was able to get like a 23-hour layover in Morocco one year, and that was really, really cool because the hotel was already paid for, so I didn't have to pay for anything extra, and there was a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, so that was really cool. So just a heads up. Okay, so flight seasons and tickets. Okay, Ghana gets really expensive when it's the winter time in opposite countries. So basically, if it's cold in the UK or if it's cold in Europe or it's cold in the US, usually the flights to Ghana are going to be a little bit more expensive because that's usually the time when Europeans and Americans fly to warmer places to escape the winter. So just keep that in mind. December is a very popular time, so it's really expensive. Flights can be around $2,000 to $5,000 depending on how you fly, and it can get really expensive if you're doing economy, first class, and all of that, especially because December is a very, very big popular time in Ghana, so you want to keep that in mind. I have usually flown to Ghana in February as well as August and June and July time. Back in 2016 and 2019, those were good times because they weren't super busy, and because it was like spring and summertime, it wasn't really big travel times. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like people are traveling to Ghana pretty much every month, more and more now. So the flights have definitely changed, but definitely look at it. And I will advise, I've always bought my plane tickets 3 to 4 months in advance. So try to do it as early as possible. If you wait, the tickets are just going to get more and more expensive, and it's going to be less likely for you to get a direct flight as well. So we talked about how to get here. I also want to add, when it comes to getting your visa for Ghana, you also have to get shots. There are mandatory vaccines that you have to get. Now that COVID vaccine season is pretty much over and that mandate has been lifted for Ghana, you don't no longer have to show your COVID-19 test, but you do have to show your COVID-19 vaccine. But I will say that the vaccines that you have to get for yellow fever, as well as the malaria pills that you are recommended to take, most people feel more comfortable taking the malaria pills. Like I said, you have no choice when it comes to the yellow fever. you have the option of getting your yellow fever vaccine in whatever country you are in. I'm not too sure if they offer that shot at the airport when you arrive. You'll have to do more research on that. Like I said, I have just always gotten my shots. The shots last 10 years, so you only have to get them once every 10 years, just like your passport. And so there's not really any way to like go around that. If you are someone that is against vaccines, you would have to reach out to people who move like that. So I want to talk about the society, because I feel like a lot of people have this misconception of Ghana. I want to say this: Ghana is not Jamaica, okay? Ghana is not super touristy. Ghana is still a very, very local place. And I think that a lot of people have the misconception that Africa is like this place where like people aren't wearing clothes, and like very like negative stereotypes about Africa in general. So just to be really honest, Ghana is a very, very modest country. It's a very conservative country. Even the nightclubs, when it comes to the nightclubs, they prefer for you to wear European clothing. When you go into the clubs, like the nightclubs, it's honestly not permitted for you to even wear like Ankara fabric and traditional fabric and things like that. It's really recommended and preferred, and they will not let you in if you aren't wearing like very westernized clothing. That's all throughout Accra. And that is speaking from experience. I have not been let in places because I had on Ankara. So a lot of times people think that when they come to Ghana, they're just gonna like wear anything. And I mean, you kind of can, but you probably will be a little bit uncomfortable in some spaces. Now, don't get me wrong. If you are coming to Ghana to live in the luxury side of Ghana, you probably won't have any issues. But obviously, if you are getting like an Airbnb and you're moving by yourself, and if you're a single woman, I would just recommend being really more careful about that as well. But also express yourself. Ghana's really hot, so also keep that in mind. There's only really raining season, and then it's hot, and then it's just hot. So you don't really have to do too much about getting a jacket and things like that. The weather is really, really good. So aside from the society and things like that, I want to touch on a very, very not quick, but a very important thing. Ghana is currently going through an anti-LGBTQ bill. And so unfortunately, the government is against the LGBTQ community. And so there are a lot of governmental policies that are happening right now. They're trying to pass a bill that will imprison as well as unalive LGBTQ members. There have been cases popping up this year specifically, but there have been cases for the past 10 years that I've been going to Ghana, but specifically this year, there have been a lot of cases of people being unalived publicly, privately. There are a lot of scams where people are pretending to be gay guys on apps, and then they lure people into these traps and unfortunately take their lives and things like that. And unfortunately right now, there's not a big consequence for that for people who are doing that. So I will say, like, if you are somebody that feels very strongly about that, obviously I do, I would keep that in mind. A lot of people feel that when the diaspora comes to Ghana, we don't kind of have to deal with the same rules as the local community, mainly because people feel like the local community looks at the diaspora as different or as foreigners, or like we have our own rules. There have been a lot of celebrities that have come to Ghana and they've had private queer events and things like that. But I think that in the next couple years, we're going to see some type of shakeup with that. And I think people should really pay attention to that. So like I said, Ghana's government and a lot of Ghana's society is against the LGBTQ community. So if you are part of that community, you want to make sure that you find events that you're going to be safe in. And you want to make sure that if there's certain things about your appearance, or if there's certain things about you that you feel like can put you in harm's way, I would definitely think twice about it, because there are so many other places in the world where you would love to go. I'm a woman, and I'm a single woman, and so I do want to talk a little bit about living in Ghana. I think for me, I like it in the sense of I'm able to kind of like stay out of the way if I want to, but I'm also very aware of how dangerous things can be. A lot of people do think that Ghana is like the safest African country, or it's safer than America. I wouldn't go as far as to say that. I will just go as far as to say you're not in fear that someone's going to shoot up the supermarket. But if I have to really be honest, I kind of think that's the only difference between America and Ghana in my past 10 years of experience. Unfortunately, catcalling is insane there. There's a lot of things that happen in terms of like Uber drivers and taxi drivers, and there are a lot of instances where women are followed and captured and kidnapped and things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say like it's so much safer. I will say that there's just a different sense of community. And there's a different sense of camaraderie that isn't very guaranteed, that isn't something that's really promising. But I will just say the concept of community and camaraderie is a little bit different in certain communities, in certain areas, and amongst certain people. I think for me, because I'm originally from Compton, I come from a place that was, had gang violence and things like that. So obviously, somewhere in Ghana, there's not, well, let's be very careful, right? There are people and groups of people who do things around the community and who do crimes and organized crimes and things like that. So I think it's something that when you get there, you want to definitely make sure that you're in the right areas and that you're amongst people that you feel very comfortable with. I wouldn't necessarily recommend coming to Ghana like alone. I would recommend being a part of some type of group, being a part of some type of network or organization where you can like meet people and hang out with people while you're experiencing Ghana by yourself, because Ghana is very, very different. It's not like Japan, it's not like Europe, it's not like these places that are kind of set up for tourists. Ghana's not really set up for tourists. It's just because I have been going there for 10 years that I know how to get around on every mode of transportation. But that's not necessarily something that like you can't really Google how to get around in Ghana yet, because a lot of the roads are not developed and things like that, and there's no technology attached to majority of the mode of transportation outside of Uber and Bolt. So you can't really like look up too much how to get somewhere. A lot of that stuff you have to find out when you get there. So that is something to keep in mind. The moment that everybody really wants to know, is Ghana cheaper? Is Ghana cheaper than the US? Is it cheaper to live? Is food cheaper? So let me really break this down, okay? When I first got to Ghana in 2013, the dollar was only at 3 cedis. Cedis are Ghana's currency. Okay, and so when I first got to Ghana, it was $1 to 3 cedis. So it wasn't that drastic. So I didn't necessarily feel like I had money. You just felt like it was regular because the dollar wasn't that far off. At that time, though, as well, a lot of things were really cheap in Ghana. A lot of things weren't popular then yet. 2013, a lot of people was not checking for Ghana unless you were a Ghanaian, you were from there, you were already a local there. But it wasn't something that had really hit the news and the mainstream media, and it wasn't very popular within Black media yet. And so now, with the year of return and things like that, so much more people have been coming. But I will say that things like inflation and deals that the government is making that are not really going through, those type of things are really affecting the community. It's affecting the currency rate. These deals and partnerships that the government is doing with these foreign companies and these foreign countries, it does bring a lot of like pressure on the currency rate. So right now, the currency rate, I believe, is like $1 to 10 cedis, which is a lot. And then things like housing and things like that is also going up, and so it's pushing out a lot of people that are local to those communities. So I will say this: if you are looking to come to Ghana and you are coming to Ghana because you think that things are cheaper, okay, But I will say, remember that the quality of life that you live now and that you want to live when you get to Ghana, you still will have to pay for those things. So for instance, internet, to get the highest package of internet, it's still about $40 or $50 right now. Also, internet is not unlimited. So you know how in the US, and I think they do this in Europe, where you have unlimited internet for that month. There is no unlimited internet in Ghana. You can pay $50 for your internet. It might run out. It might not. It depends on how you use it. And that is a very big thing for people who work remote. If there's no such thing as unlimited internet, then you have to figure out how that's going to work for you. And like I said, internet is still a luxury expense. So you're still looking at between $40, $50 to $60 a month, possibly even more, depending on how much you need your internet, how much you're using it. Also, rent. There are rent options where you can pay in the local currency. You just have to make sure that you know the right real estate agent, okay? There are a lot of real estate agents that just look at the diaspora as, oh, all of y'all got money. And so they don't really care too much about helping out the local community, and they don't really care about helping you. And so there are some real estate agents that are pricing their apartments in dollars and in pounds. And then there are real estate agents that are pricing their apartments in Ghana cedis. So you want to make sure that you look out for that. Like I said, if you are looking to move to Ghana or come to Ghana for a long time, definitely feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to any other consultancy group that you might see. I can't speak for anyone because I'm not associated with any consultant or affiliate, or no group that I'm working with. I'm working independently. So if you are thinking about it, I would always reach out to someone who's already here. Use Airbnb, and like I said, you should want to pay for some type of consultancy services if this is a brand new country that you are not familiar with. Talk about this since I just brought up Wi-Fi, electricity, water. Depending on where you live, your electricity will be a prepaid experience. So in Ghana, they have something called ECG, which is their electric company, and they have prepaid options. So there's a meter on the apartment, and you basically pay that card at the different meter stations around the city, and you pay that card and you use that card on your meter, which is usually on your apartment. And if it runs out, you should have money on that card to put back. Like I said again about expenses, if you want to live the quality of life that you have already been living, you can still expect to pay about $40 to $50 a month for electricity. Now, I will say, I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. I have paid electricity, and I probably paid about $30 3 months ago, and I haven't had to pay for electricity again. But that's also because it's just me. I don't have a bunch of people in my place, so that might be different if you have kids, or if you're a couple, or you have a roommate and things like that. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, right? So if you have electricity and you have water and you have internet, you're already looking at about $100 a month in bills, right? And so rent, I forgot to mention that earlier. You should expect to be paying anywhere between about $100 USD to about, no more, in my opinion, no more than like $500 a month in rent. In Ghana, they prefer for you to pay 1 year in advance. So if you are somebody that's looking to get away and you want to get an apartment for 6 months or a year, and you're just like, I want to take a year off, I want to live in Ghana, definitely reach out to me and I can help you with that. I work with different real estate agents, and I can help you get an apartment in a really safe space and a really cool rate, and yeah, and see if you enjoy it. If you are looking for like a short-term stay, like I said, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you connected to some people. The last thing that I want to talk about is healthcare, okay? I know that there are a lot of influencers who are talking about being vegan and eating fruit and eating clean and all of that stuff. And although that is all possible in Ghana, the reality is that the healthcare is really, really, really bad. Not just the lack of technology, but the fact that there's a lack of hospitals in general. Now, there are hospitals, there are doctors, there are nurses, but that public hospital might be the scariest thing you ever seen in your life, okay? I'm speaking from experience. I've been in the public hospital in Ghana before, over in Osu. Never again, okay? There are private clinics, private hospitals. They are European owned. If there are any black doctors or any black nurses, please come to Ghana and develop a clinic and develop a hospital, because we need it. There are, I believe, less than 300 ambulances in the entire country. So those are things to keep in mind. If you are somebody that has very specific conditions, chronic conditions, illnesses, infections, you want to make sure to go speak with your doctor before leaving to Ghana. Get as much information as you can, get as much prescription as you can, and also get as much information about whatever your conditions are and the different names of the different medicines that you can also take in case you need to get some more medicine while you're in Ghana. You don't want to run out of something and not be able to get it while you're out there. So make sure that you come with enough of your medication, and you want to just have a conversation with your doctors to make sure that the weather and the food and the environment are things that you'll be able to do, because Ghana is very hot. It can be very intense for some people, and it can be very hard. So you really do want to know your body. You can buy fruit everywhere, you can buy food everywhere and things like that. But always remember that our stomachs are not, we're so used to a lot of GMOs and things like that. You will most likely get sick your first week there, but then after that, you'll be fine. That's just kind of how it goes. No one can really get past that. Okay, let's talk about the police. So there was a viral clip of Steve Harvey saying, he loves Ghana and he loves Africa. And he mentioned when you get pulled over in Ghana, you just give them some money and you go. Okay, I don't really know why he said that. And it's really irritating when black celebrities come to Ghana and they talk about how you could just bribe everybody and you could just pay somebody off. Don't say that loud, because niggas already think that we make all this money, and it's like, and we don't. Black Americans are not Steve Harvey, okay? Like, we do not have the same money, access to resources, or anything that Steve Harvey has. So for Steve Harvey, maybe giving a Ghanaian police officer $100 is like, whatever. But please don't go around saying things like that, because it just makes everyone think that it's okay to steal from black Americans, or to lie to us about prices, or to try to scare us and making us think that we're going to go to jail for something that's not even illegal just because they want some money. That's something that happens, and you don't really want to aid into the subcultures of stealing money and things like that. So yes, with the police, you can do that type of stuff. You can, but there are issues that can really land you in jail and can really get your ATM wiped out, okay? The police will drive you to your ATM and they will wipe your ass out, okay? I will tell you, because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen them drive people to an ATM, wipe out their account, and drop their ass right back off at home, okay? So weed is also a felony in Ghana, so you cannot be caught with it. You want to make sure that where you are, it's okay. And you will usually know that because people will usually tell you. But be very careful with that, okay? Again, this is not Jamaica. Even in Jamaica, weed is still a felony. Again, this is not a place where everybody's just blowing down. You still have to be very careful. Lastly, this is the last thing for real. I do want to talk about the concept of making money in Ghana. A lot of people ask, like, how do you make money in Ghana? Are you making money in Ghana? Unfortunately, it's really difficult for people like me, an American, to make money in Ghana, because a lot of the institutions in Ghana are European owned. And so I don't have a European residency. I don't have a European passport. And so there's not a lot of American institutions in Ghana that hires Americans other than the U.S. Embassy. There's a few companies in Ghana that will hire foreigners, but majority of the time, those jobs are for people of that particular company's culture. So if it's a German company, then it'll be for German people. If it's a European company and it's out of London, then it's usually going to be for those people. Americans don't really have a lot of institutions in Ghana like people think. And not enough that will hire us. You know, there's like a Marriott in Ghana, but they don't necessarily hire Americans, you know. So there are issues like that. So you do have no choice but to be an entrepreneur. If you are an American, if you are a Black American, you really have no choice but to be an entrepreneur or to be a remote worker in order to work in Ghana, unless later down the line you get a citizenship. But because of the salary rates and the currency rates, most people don't work here unless they work for the U.S. Embassy. And in my opinion, the U.S. Embassy really only hires people that's like over 60 years old. So, yeah. So, well, that is the end of this video. I said it was going to be really short because I just wanted it to get straight to the point. And then if there are any questions, I will do a second video maybe a few months later. But we'll see. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully we answered some questions. I can now get out of the sun because the sun is just moving around. But yes, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I answered some questions, and stay tuned to my next episode, which might be a griot pop episode or it might be another griot news episode. I don't know, but make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow, and share this video. Share it amongst your friends. If you guys are planning to come to Ghana in December, definitely share this in the group chat. Bye.